Now, welcome back. Erica, we're shouting over to you in the kitchen because, listen, we forgot baby brain.
Yes.
We forgot to ask you what you're actually cooking on the show.
So tonight I'm making a delicious lemon chicken. It's got tender stem broccoli going through it, parsley and some lovely almond crumb on the top. It's really tasty.
Yum, yum, yum. Sounds delicious. OK, we know what she's making now, right?
There we go. Now we can start the show.
Now we can go. All right, we're into first gear. And in fact, our first guest here this evening is a man who's appeared on our screens from Kilnaskully Kin.
And for his latest role, he's traded in his actor's cap for a tour guide's umbrella. It's great to welcome Jack Walsh to the 6 o'clock show.
Thank you.
How are you, Jack?
Thank you.
It's great to have you on.
Yeah.
Now, you're about to hit the touring circuit for your brand new show, Welcome to Ireland. Tell us everything about it.
OK, Welcome to Ireland. Meltdown of an Irish Tour Guide is the name of the show. And what it refers to is that, like, while I was acting away, doing stuff like Kilnaskully, Fair City, actually, I'm still in jail in Fair City. I think it's the longest jail sentence ever, you know. Maybe they should do it more often. But anyway, you know, acting work can be brilliant sometimes and then fluctuates, whatever. And I was what they call happily divorced. Right? There was a time in Ireland when you couldn't be, but, you know, I was, and we were all good with each other, just decided to live apart. And like many a person who's divorced, I was living in private rented accommodation. And, you know, these days that can be a bit hairy, you know, rents going up and all that. And so I was living in this beautiful place in Capel Street in Dublin. And it was all going well until the rents did start going up. And then the landlord started talking about, I might have to sell the house and all this. And I thought, OK, you know, the ice was cracking a little bit. And I thought, I kind of need more money, just more stable money. Yeah. So I used to look out the window and see these guys with caps or hats like me. And they'd have an umbrella and they'd be talking to a few people and then they'd move on. I'd say, tour guides, sure, I could do that. You know, I mean, what are they? Just acting, right? So I went to Fáilte Ireland and did a course. And it was great. Learned that actually there was a lot to it. But I'm interested in history, I'm interested in literature, I love reading, all that. And I love Dublin, you know, and I love Ireland. So I thought, yeah, why not? Let's just do it. So I did the course, and then I started doing the ones that you have to do at the start. And some of them came into my show. And they're the ones where you go down the docks and you take 50 people off a cruise ship and you put them on a bus and they're all grumpy. They all hate each other. They hate you too because you got them up early.
And then they meet you, Jack. And you put a smile on their face.
And you have to pretend to be the happiest bloke in the world and their best mate. And the driver could be grumpy as well. And anyway, your job's to make everyone happy. And the reason they're up early is because the tour agency decides that they want to sell them another tour in the afternoon, right? And another one at night if the ship is staying in town. Anyway, that whole thing, right? So I was doing that, and at the same time, then I was coming home to the flat, and I was hearing all these things about, well, I might have to sell the house and everything, you know, and I thought, Jesus, you know, as time went on, I thought, hang on a second, OK, I'm an actor, but I'm also a tour guide now, and I'm selling Ireland, you know, because I love Ireland. Yeah? And I wasn't bullshitting people. I was telling, you know, I never went off country in that way. And even though we were encouraged a bit in terms of like, well, you know, they don't want to know what you think and everything like that, you know, don't be telling them anything negative. But, you know, anyway, I entertained people and I could sing songs and tell them jokes and all this, and it was all good. But I realised I'm selling brand Ireland, and at the same time, you know, it's sort of looking like maybe Ireland doesn't have a roof for me.
Yeah, and Jack, that brings us nicely on to our second question, because you wrote the show, you star in the show itself, and there's a lot of it, in fact, draws on the rental crisis that we're currently experiencing. Why did you decide to include that in the show itself?
Because I was experiencing it, and that was the whole thing, and I could see it around me. And I mean, OK, in my case, you know, I'm an older person now, mature, we like to say, but it affects young people more than anyone. Yeah. Do you know, I've lost count of the nieces and nephews I have, you know, that say, oh, yeah, two of my friends, you know, and we've had to move on. We both have good jobs, but because they just keep selling the houses or whatever. Yeah. And everyone dreads that moment when the email drops in from the letting agency or whoever, you know, saying, oh, you're going to have to move on because whatever, you know. And so because it is a real thing, not just me, it wasn't like a rare thing, I decided, OK, there's a show in that. You know, like I can use all my writing and acting ability and play all the characters. So I play about 40 characters in 65, 70 minutes.
So there is humour in the show, right?
Yeah.
There is humour in the show.
there's a lot of humour in the show. It's satire. I mean, I don't give people a lecture. Do you know what I mean?
It's relatable stuff.
It's relatable. Listen, like young people love it, and like everyone I know who's come to it has loved it. We played 2 weeks in the Viking Theatre in Clontarf, packed out, tremendous reaction. And last year I actually did it in the Project Arts Centre, in the Civic in Tala, and the Axis in Ballymun. Again, great reaction. So now I'm going down the country a little bit. Glore in Ennis tomorrow night. Glore Studio, beautiful little space, lovely and intimate, you know. It's a storytelling show. And the following night, on Friday, St. John's Theatre in Listowel. It's an old church, it's fantastic. And in 2 weeks' time, playing at the Cork Arts Theatre. That's the Cat Club, as some the cool people call it.
Well, now, speaking of on-stage presence, I mean, you must have some on-stage stamina, because over the course of a 70-minute show, you're playing, 40-odd characters? And that includes tourists, landlords, historical figures, a moonwalking squirrel as well. Tell us all about that. What does that entail, you know, just hopping from different characters within a 70-minute show?
Well, I mean, you know, essentially I'm telling you the story like I'm telling it to you in the pub, right? Except with the added thing that I'm actually acting these people as well. Right. Now, I could do a bit of it in the pub, but there'd be lots of flipping noise and all the rest of it. So after a while, you might go to the Jacks or something and go, oh, yeah, OK. But, you know, in a theatre, I have you, you know. And I know, it's great crack. I love it. And the moonwalking squirrel, the funny thing about it is, I'm not going to do it for you now. You have to come see the show. Wait.
Come see the face.
Wait, I'll tell you the story about it, right? This was a very unusual tour. It was a big group of 50 French people, and they were from a wallpaper factory in northern France. You know, I get all the glamour gigs. But and this tour was their reward for high wallpaper sales, right? And like they should have gone to Tunisia for a beach holiday, but there had just been a terrorist atrocity, so they had to go here instead. And they looked so disappointed. I mean, they didn't care about Patrick Pearse or James Joyce or anything. So they looked like a bunch of kids, like having to go on a Sunday walk with their folks while all their mates are in McDonald's. You know what I mean? And so, like, we struggled on in the bus, and I was doing my best, you know, but I knew I was dying here. And anyway, at the end, I was walking them through the grounds of Trinity College, and all of a sudden, out from behind a tree pops a squirrel. And then all of a sudden, regardez, un écureuil, you know, and they all turned their backs on me to look at the first thing in Dublin they wanted to take a photo of, a squirrel.
So let's see the squirrel face, Jack. Wow.
But we have to ask you about The Northman, of course, Robert Eggers' Northman. You starred alongside Nicole Kidman and Alexander Skarsgård. What was that experience like for you?
The Northman was amazing because, for one thing, it was during the really tough time in COVID, you know, in 2020. And it was originally postponed because it was supposed to be around the time COVID actually hit, sort of March 2020. And like, I can only imagine, like, the production crowd, you know, what would they have thought? You know, oh, there's this disease nobody'd ever thought of before, and now we can't do it. And like, they had stars lined up, the Kidman and Skarsgård and everyone. And they actually lost one guy, unfortunately, and he was gutted. But they had to put it back. And then they had to say, OK, first, Nicole, how are we doing with you? Because she was the top of the tree. And she had a bunch of stuff lined up. So she, in the end, had to come from Sydney, where she's in 30-degree heat, in November, right, to the north of Ireland, which wasn't 30 degrees, right? It was freezing. And we were out on these mountains, you know, in Antrim and down, and like the wind whipping around the place. And like, Vikings were great at building boats, but they weren't great at making shoes. They were flipping leather yokes. They were like envelopes, and we were flipping shaking. And you know, filming, like, you'd have to wait for ages, and we had to do this long journey. We were going to their version of a hurling match where they kill each other, you know, sort of hitting each other, basically like hurling. But anyway, we had to wait for ages, and this was Nicole's first day.
Wow,
right?
Incredible. Jack, speaking of the program, because we want to get into Kin, you starred as the baddie Derek Ward in that show. Did you enjoy playing a baddie?
Every actor loves playing a baddie because, you know, you can pretend it's not you.
Go to the extreme. Get everything out, vent.
Yeah.
Will it be back?
I hope so. I mean, you know, I heard that, you know, Charlie Cox is doing Daredevil, so there was the delay. But it's obviously up to, you know, whether all the planets align and everything like that. I would love it. Yeah. You never know. My baddie's still alive, unlike some of them.
Oh, so it's ready to come back out if it needs to. All right.
Bring the bad boy out.
Well,
Absolutely.
Well, we're hanging on to you for another bit. We've more to ask you, but thank you so much. Now, catch Jack touring with Welcome to Ireland, Meltdown of an Irish Tour Guide at Cork Arts Theatre from August 7th to 10th. Grab your tickets at corkartstheatre.com.
Now, a little later in the show, we'll be live in Paris chatting to the designer who's dressing our Olympic hopefuls this year.
Yes, but up next, I'm very excited about this, sir.
Yes.
I'll be chatting with former Dairy Girl, Saoirse Monica Jackson, and some of her buddies about her new Netflix show, The Decamerons. See you in less than 3 minutes.
I love that chat.